In this brief presentation, I will be discussing part of a wider pilot project aimed at aligning a multimodal integrated speaking task to the CEFR. I will give an overview of the project and its context and the theoretical background of relating language test tasks to the CEFR. I will share the research question driving the study and the methods used for the investigation. Lastly, I will discuss the findings leading to the limitations, conclusions, and future development of the project. The context is the Language Centre of the University of Padova, Italy's B2 speaking test for students attending a degree course in primary education. The speaking test is computer-based and requires students to record monologues in response to prompts. Our focus is on task 2 of the test, an integrated task comprising a reading and video source input on a topic within the student's field of educational interest. Test takers are asked to summarize the inputs and provide a personal opinion on the topic. Performances are evaluated by human raters, taking into account the elements you can see here. While there is no doubt that the CEFR has transformed and shaped language learning and, as a consequence, testing, its adequacy for test developers is still highly debated. On the one hand, it provides a practical and accessible tool and a basis for discussion amongst practitioners, leading to a common understanding of learner proficiency. On the other, it relies on human judgment, which is open to uncertainty and bias and does not take into account elements of assessment, such as item demands and difficulty. Bearing this in mind, for this part of our project, we focused on the question of whether the prompts of our integrated multimodal speaking task elicit language features, in terms of idea units, associated with the B2 level of the CEFR. Our sample consisted of 85 recordings of test taker performance elicited during official test sessions. Test takers completed one of 4 versions of the task in question, the topics of which you can see here. All of the source inputs were mapped for idea units, and transcripts of the test takers' performances the same. Analysis was carried out on the output of the mappings using descriptive statistics. Across the 4 versions, the source inputs were all of the same length, but when we mapped for idea units, we found differences in the numbers of main ideas in each and in the overlap between sources. We adapted the definition of the idea unit from Frost et al.'s proposal, taking as idea units clauses that contained information points. After mapping the sources and the performances for idea units, we divided the test takers' idea units according to whether they accurately replicated source idea units or not, whether they combined, i.e. summarized the source idea units, etc. Here you can see a few examples of source idea units and test takers' accurate replications and accurate combinations. Returning to the CEFR descriptors referred to in our test specifications, through this task, we aimed to understand whether test takers could identify main reasons for and against an idea in standard speech, hence the video input, and understand articles concerned with contemporary problems. In terms of production, we expect test takers to be able to explain a viewpoint on a topical issue. Our findings showed that on average, each test taker produced around 12 idea units, recounted from the source. There were some differences between the 4 versions of the task. Accurate idea units amounted to around 77%, the majority of which came from the reading sources. A breakdown of the types of idea units produced by students shows that they tend to recount idea units individually. Here you can see an average of 7 accurate replications versus 0.85 combinations, rather than summarize as the prompt requested. As a smaller part of a wider study, there are limitations that should be addressed moving forwards. The size and homogeneity of the population, differences between the topics, and other elements of the test, such as rating, and the fact that the performance analysis is limited to this one task. However, we can tentatively conclude that the average number of idea units provided could suggest an adequate use of the input sources. In future, we would like to analyze performances at different levels, include additional measures such as complexity, accuracy, and fluency in our analysis, and look more closely at the influence of the different sources. Thank you for your attention.